So, last session we were on emotional martial arts, and we're up to stage 4 of emotional martial arts, which is all about strategy. And we spoke briefly about why we needed to study strategy, which is essentially all of the different archetypes that we play out when we emotionalize weapons. And essentially it was that when we understand all of these different archetypes, the emotional game begins to get boring for us. But there's also a deeper reason as to why people want to weaponize emotions, and it is this concept of needing to draw energy from another person. Now, the thing is, if you think about this, just bear with me as I explain an example of how this works. Let's say you've had an argument with someone, and you've won that argument. You feel good about it, right? You've had your say, and you feel relieved. It feels as though you sort of pumped up afterwards, and you feel sort of more relaxed and revitalized. It could also be that you're playing a victim and you feel victimized, and someone takes pity for you. And so they're sort of being apologetic towards you, and you feel sort of energized after that. And so the question is, why do you feel good after these moments? And it is because of this concept that a lot of people call energy vampirism, where you're sort of sucking the energy from another person. And why do I say from another person? Can't it just be purely from just feeling happy about something? Because if you think about an argument, and let's say I've just won that argument, the person who's lost that argument now feels really down. They feel perhaps a bit sad. They feel perhaps devitalized, right? It's sort of, that's on an individual scale. On a sort of larger scale, you can see sporting games. It happens a lot. And I see sporting games, for instance, as games where a lot of energy is exchanged. And it's, for me, the energy of competition, which the very energy of competition is divisive. And why do I say that? It's because competition, let's say in sports games right now, is where some team is better than another team. And these words, better than something, is a comparison between one thing and another. And yeah, there's a preference in it that can be perceived to be healthy. Is there such a thing as healthy competition? For me, the only time that we can like, let's say, shift our perspective into a healthy competition perspective is when it's like an expression of creative art. And like, let's say it's a partner dance and it's two people dancing together, and you're not sort of scoring them on who's better than the other person, or who's the winner and who's the loser there. And it's this winner and loser concept that is that divisiveness, that is that competition. The winner draws energy from the loser, and the loser gives energy away to the winner. And all of those who are invested and backing the winner team suck energy from all of those who back the team of the losing team. And so our whole cultural society is in fact set up to draw energy from one another in this energy vampirism like exchange. Now, then the other part to, why do we want to understand the archetypes more, is because when we can understand, let's say, the upbringing of a person who's now always playing this bully game, right? The bully at school, who was bullying everybody, who bullied me and was being mean to everybody. If I now understand that this character had also been bullied, had suffered tremendous abuse from his parents, I am more likely to be able to accept this character, this being, and therefore more likely to be able to love this character. And this is not to excuse how mean or how hurtful this person's behaviors are, but I'm better able, I have more capacity when I understand this sort of archetype of his upbringing, or her upbringing, that I can accept that these sets of unhealthy behaviors that this individual exhibits is sort of separate of this person's being, separate of this person's natural divine magnificence, that they are unable to be because they are trapped in the archetype. They are trapped in this mold. Okay. Now, this also isn't to say that competitive sports, competitive whatever it is, games, are bad, in the sense that they promote divisiveness and the competition that is ingrained within our cultural system. All I'm saying is I'm trying to give a different lensing to how we sort of idolize right now competition. And so when we idolize something like competition, we're really idolizing divisiveness. And it becomes very difficult to return to a space of compassion if we have a need to really idolize that. And so the biggest separator between, or the creator of these archetypes that we play, all comes from the space of no empathy, no compassion. It's not to say that there are not archetypes where there is also compassion. Okay, let's explore some of these archetypes. I think the most common one that perhaps more people know about is like the drama triangle, where it's a triangle and people talk about the hero, the victim, and the perpetrator. And they're all codependent relationships, right? In that to play a hero, you need a victim. To play a victim, you need a perpetrator who's hurt others. And the commonality between all of the behavior is hurt and destructive behaviors. That's the commonality, right? It's the same with every movie that's ever been created, unless it's a documentary. Is that, you have this villain who is the perpetrator, right? And there are the victims of whatever this perpetrator, this villain is sort of hurting the others. And then there's this, there's always a character that plays out a hero, right? I need to save the world, I need to save these people, I need to, whatever it is. And we love watching these movies, right? And this is why it's very ingrained within our whole cultural fabric. It's very difficult to escape that. In fact, that's where we sort of find our entertainment. And so we wonder why we're addicted to drama, or we're addicted to hurt. It's because the same thing is being played over in movies. It's also being played over in the news, on mainstream news, right? It's barely ever any sort of, quote, good news stories. It's like, it's just always, here's all these victims of blah, 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 right? Like, this bomb, this virus, these blackmailers, whatever it might be. Or like stories of heroes who save the day, they saved this person, they saved that person, right? Or the perpetrator, this person's been caught, they've been put in jail, or they're the scapegoat for this. That's always the news. So the news revolves around this triangle, right? And you'll very easily be able to fit yourself and others into one of these archetypes that we will like to fall in and play. And we can play multiple different roles in this. We can be the perpetrator and we can be the victim. Why? Because it's often because we're the victim to abuse when we're younger, that we then end up being the perpetrator. Or perhaps the victim of abuse when we're younger, and we end up playing a hero, right? And so, like, let's say it's a child who has been severely beaten, bullied, shut down by their parents when they're young. And so now they're out in school and they feel a need to bully other people in exactly the same way that they're being bullied by their parents. Right? So they're now playing out the perpetrator role. Or perhaps that same victim ends up playing out a hero role. And you're like, okay, why did the victim now decide to play the hero? Because the victim thinks that if I'm able to save other people, that I can make myself safe. I can make this space a safer space for everybody. They don't really necessarily think that I'm making a safer space for myself. I mean, how many heroes have given up their own lives or put themselves into danger to save others? It's not about them. So it's actually not self-work, right? This whole triangle has no healing. There's no healing in any of this triangle. We're simply very addicted to the dramas that are played out. Okay. And then as victims, we enjoy receiving pity. And it's got this save me attitude. Like, I'm waiting for someone to save me. I'm waiting for a hero to rescue me. And this is the case in a lot of times, in a lot of relationships, right? We play out these roles. We seek out a hero as a partner, or we seek out a perpetrator as a partner. We seek out a victim. And it's easy to think about why we might want to seek out a hero, right? Oh, this person can save me. But often we like to seek out a perpetrator. You're like, why would I want to seek out a perpetrator? And it's because sometimes we love playing the hero. I need to save this person. They're such an amazing, I see their divinity and I want to save them by dating them and becoming their lover. Right? So some people say, why do I want to date the victim? The meekness. And perpetrators enjoy that because they need someone to play a victim. And so we end up playing these three roles out. Any questions on that? Now, I don't actually even know the source of if there was someone who actually first created this drama triangle, but if there is, I don't know who it is. The second type of analytics, before I go on to the second part, if you imagine all of those roles, you can feel how energy is kind of tussling in between each of them, right? There's an energetic war that is happening between all of them, in that there is a vampirism in each, that we're almost codependent on drawing energy or giving energy away to all of those within that same old drama story, right? Okay, so then the second, let's say series, I don't know what word I'd use to describe set. The second set of archetypes is one that's I read a really long time ago. It's in a book called The Celestine Prophecy, written by a guy called James Redfield. And he talks about 4 control dramas that I really like. And he introduces this concept of drawing energy from each other. And the 4 dramas can also fit very nicely into the triangle dramas that I just spoke to. And the 4 control dramas are this. The first one is the intimidator. And the intimidator is the individual who likes to threaten, likes to control through fear, likes to, super bully, likes to beat people up or threaten to beat people up. The second one that kind of plays into this is the poor me archetype, which is the victim, right? Is woe is my life. I need someone to rescue me. I can't do anything. I'm very, very meek. I'm going to shut myself away in my room and not talk to anybody. Okay, that's the poor me. The third one is the interrogator. The interrogator is the person who loves asking questions, rhetorical questions that have emotional bombs in them. So I can't even think of any right now, but they're just loaded questions. Can someone think of a loaded question? I don't really have any coming to the top of my mind right now. Oh, can't you do better at school? Can't you get better grades? Why are you dating this person? Why are you doing that? Right. Those questions don't, like, they're not answerable, but but we attempt to answer them, and when we answer them, we give our energy away to that person. But we also just feel really terrible in those moments, right? Why? Because the emotions were sort of projected at us and weaponized. And that person who was the interrogator took the energy away from the person who now feels really bad. Okay. And then the fourth one is, they call it, James calls it the aloof type. Aloof meaning those who are often numb to an attack. So they won't run out of the room, they'll just sit there and say nothing. Just sit in a room and not comment on anything. They stay silent and they're just like, meh, meh. This was my most common archetype, actually. And so if you think about how these roles play themselves out, the winner of each of these fights, these wars, these, let's say, mini fights that break out between people, takes energy from the loser, right? And it happens everywhere. It happens in person, but now with COVID, it happens online a lot. It happens over phone. It happens in social media, right? So now that there's no sports going on, people are turning to social media and turning to the comments that are happening and turning into keyboard warriors in the comments, and sort of putting all these bombs out there. And you can read from all of them which archetype these people fit into, each of these individuals fit into. So here's the thing about energy drawing. We all need energy, right? We all need to get it from somewhere. Life would be very uninteresting if we didn't get energy from somewhere. And we find interest in life when we can draw, when we bring the energy into ourselves. It's like, oh, I love this. But we also love the hustle of that. Okay. And so here's the thing. The very first place that we learn where to draw energy from is, as when we're born, is from our parents, right? That's where we learn where to draw the yin and yang energy. If we've only got one parent, then the other parent has to sort of supplement, or the child has to learn, or doesn't get it at all. Right? So when a child doesn't have enough energy, is not drawing enough energy from the parents, they end up getting really restless and very tired very easily. Okay. And so we're already learning how to draw energy from other people at a very early age. It's in our epigenetics. And the question is, okay, is there an issue with this? Yeah, there's an issue with it because each parent's energy is finite. And parents are already giving away a lot of energy throughout the day when they're at work, when they're feeling unsatisfied or not following their bliss. And so often when they come home, parents are needing to draw energy from someone, somewhere. And where does it go? It's from their own families. So energy vampirism is absolutely everywhere, and we're drawing it from finite sources. And so is there anything you can do about this? Yes, we can draw it from infinite sources. Where is the infinite source? It's our real mother and our real father. What do I mean by that? Our real mother is Mother Earth. Our real father is the sun. Why would I say something like this? If you think about the plants, Earth in relationship to the sun. If Earth had no sun, Earth would just be a piece of very, very big piece of rock minerals, just rock minerals floating out, not even in orbit because there'd be no sun to orbit, right? It'd kind of be like the moon, yeah? But the sun gives light, energy, life energy to a lifeless mineral inorganic piece of rock. And this eventually creates life, organic life. If the sun went away right now, everything would turn back to inorganicness, right? So the sun as a source of life for Earth and the plant kingdom is really important, right? Otherwise there'd be no life. Now the same thing is true of humans. If there is no plants, there are no humans, right? We wouldn't be able to live here. We'd have no oxygen. Okay? So there is this interrelationship, this family to which we don't often think about, because we don't often think about this relationship between plants, it's the earth and the sun, and how the sun gives life to earth to bring everything into organic form. Okay. And now you think about plants, and I don't know if I'm digressing here, but maybe it's an important digression. If you think about plants, they are not trees. I'm talking about like not evergreens. I'm just talking about let's say like a basil plant, you know, like a plant that just wants to like a flowering plant that has one season worth of life in it. Its spirit, if you like, has a constant need to return to inorganic form. Why do I say that? Because the moment you take sun away from it, it dies, right? Many plants are like this. The moment you take sun away from that plant, it will die. But humans, right, we know if you take sun away from us, we don't die. If you take plants away from us and food, our food, then we die. Why is that? Right? Well, it's because there is this inner capacity for us that's quite different to a plant. We're sort of like using the plant's energy that is from the sun to power ourselves. Or an animal, for those of us who eat animals. The animal is getting their sustenance from plants, who are getting their sustenance from the sun. So there is a very, very big linkage, right? Even in the physical food chain, if we just don't even talk about energy. And so, but however, we can't ignore energy, the vibration and energetics of everything. And if we say that there is an interrelationship physically between ourselves and the sun, and ourselves and the earth, and the organic materials of plants, right? There has to be a deeper relationship there. And I'm simply calling it a mother and a father, right? But you could call it anything. You could call it parents. You could call it a real dependency on the need for them to continue to give energetic life to us. And so how do you draw? So those are the infinite sources, right, of where we can truly draw energy from. And you think about like when you go out into nature, right? Look, we're in Kauai right now, and it's just, I'm permanently sitting in nature. The beach is just there. It's just incredibly beautiful. And when you sit with nature, in nature, you're recharged, right? Completely recharged and revitalized. You feel great after you've had a little getaway in nature. I mean, some people are really scared these days when they, especially in concrete jungle cities, they go out into nature. They're like, oh, whoa, this thing could be really scary. Like, there's snakes and whatever else it is that is very severe. Like, dirt is scary for people now. Oh, dirt, mud, oh, dirty. Or the beach. Oh, the beach has so much dirt on it. Or even the water. Oh, the water, it's brown water and there's sewage going into the water. We're just scared of going out into nature, right? But that's the real place where we can draw an infinite amount of, like earthly, motherly energy. Okay. And then let's say the sun. Why do we crave holidays with sun? Or why do we like places where we get to just, enjoy the warmth of it? And some people have learnt, especially like in Chinese cultures where they want just pure white skin, they've got umbrellas out all the time. I know it well because my mom likes to do that. She wants to shelter herself from the sun, from the warming rays. Yet the sun has incredible life-giving properties. Energy, life-giving energy that gives life across the entire solar system. Right? So we love the sun, and we're revitalized. How many times have you laid out in the sun and just felt recharged from it? Sometimes if you sit out too long, you sort of feel drained from it, but that's a completely different story. But mostly, when you're out in the sun, you feel great. And for places that don't have sun, like a lot of sun, like in London, for instance, there's a lot of rain and a lot of clouds. Or Canada. When the sun's out, you can feel the energy of the entire population lifting. It's like everyone's out in the parks, everyone's out in nature, everyone's enjoying everything so much more. Everyone's more happy. Why is everyone more happy when there's sun? Because we are all absorbing and revitalizing ourselves from an infinite source, not from each other. Okay. So, how does all of this relate back to, energy drawing, energy vampirism? How does this come back to emotional martial arts and emotional intimacy and these series of talks? Because we have forgotten or not been taught. I'd say more forgotten or become very disconnected from drawing love energy from infinite sources. And instead, our cultural conditioning has us drawing energy from each other by weaponizing emotions. That's the importance of this. When we can understand, like if we could just get a few people to begin to understand that anytime we're we're weaponizing our emotions and we're projecting our stuff onto other people, that we're drawing energy, we're being energy vampires to another person. I think everything would start to shift quite dramatically. And so when we can truly learn how to appreciate and find gratitude and embrace nature earth energy, and the sun, we're literally now able to form a new kind of chord, dependency on an infinite source of energy, rather than a finite source of energy, which is from other people. And the other thing about drawing energy from this infinite source is that when we draw energy from other people, it's often conditional love energy. So we need to wait for these other people to play out these roles. And so the kind of energy we're getting back is not pure. It's very distorted. And it just continues to distort us. It's also then very difficult to return to the more empathetic archetypes. Okay. So now that I've spoken about the non-empathetic archetypes, I'll move on to the empathetic. But does anyone have any questions about all of that? Okay. Moving on to the empathetic archetypes. Now, I have to talk about the transition to this space first. Because initially, when we come to sort of this realization, this awareness that, wow, I've been sucking energy from other people all my life, I need to stop that. And quite a lot of people have recognized that and realized that. And so they sort of attempt to stop those sorts of behaviors, and go cold turkey. If we go cold turkey without learning how to draw energy from appreciating in nature and loving nature and appreciating the sun and loving the sun, then our energy, our chi levels, just start dropping like crazy. So we really do need to learn that style of appreciation, which I'm not covering in this talk, but maybe later I will give some meditational techniques, etc., to help dive into this love of Mother Earth and love for Father Sky. Because the thing about these tools and day-to-day life, right, is that if you're living in a concrete jungle, like, how can you get out into nature if you're working all the time during the week? And you're working all the time in a city like London. Where can you see the sun, and where can you actually see nature? Like, when are you ever going to get a chance to recharge? The thing is, we don't actually have to be in nature to do that. There are specific meditations that we can use that we can tune into nature. Ultimately, it's a frequency, it's a vibration that we can all embody without actually hugging a tree, without actually sitting in a forest, without actually needing the sun to be beaming down on us 24/7. Okay, so there's a transitional period to this. So the empathetic archetypes is the sacred neutral. It's the walk of the middle way. It's the warmth that we can exude towards an openness towards other people, towards the whole walk of life. We're no longer emotionally charged, and we're not trying to draw energy from other people with our emotions. We don't have a need to say fight other people for their energy, right? We can also recognize it in others when it arises. So when someone comes up to us and wants to draw energy from us, a family, lover, we see that straight away because we can read the archetype. We're like, oh, I see this coming. And we're like, I'm not going to give you my energy. Piss off. Stop. Put the boundaries up. No, not happening. And these family members and these lovers will try harder and harder. Why? Because you're their battery. You are their battery pack. And you just said, no, I'm not going to be your battery pack anymore. So they've just lost a big battery pack. Right? And how do we feel when we've lost our battery pack? We're angry. And so the weaponized emotions come even harder. You're changing and it's not for the better. I don't like what you're turning into. All this spiritual mumbo jumbo, whatever you're doing in this self-development is not helping you. How many of us have heard this? I assume that most of you who have made it through to this video have heard this once, at least once, and will actually continue to hear this. But this isn't your stuff. This is theirs. And you're not responsible for being their battery pack. And it's even more important for parents to really be able to charge themselves, because unfortunately children really have no other place to draw energy from but from you, from their parents, until you can teach them to connect with nature, to connect with the sun. That's true unconditional love, unconditional presence, right? And so what's the difference between the empathetic and non-empathetic archetypes? It's the heart. Heart changes the game. Completely changes the game. And I'm not talking about like these neutral archetypes or these sacred neutral archetypes, these warm archetypes, as like a spiritual persona or a spiritual mold that a lot of people find themselves doing right now. A lot of gurus and a lot of teachers and a lot of yoga community kind of play out these I'm so kind roles. There's one in particular TV personality who's currently being called out for having a motto of be kind, but then there's all these stories that are coming out of how unkind this person is. It's a persona, right? And we can all play out personas because we've been doing it since we were children. The persona is the mold. I call it the matrix mold. There's a spiritual persona mold. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about true magnificence that has no mold, that comes out from each of us when we break free of those molds. So like the yoga community need to look like this and need to be like that also. Many of them. Many in the wellness community that are all about healthy. Again, I need to look like this. I need to wear this type of clothing. And if I'm a student, I need to seek out that kind of yoga teacher. Or the guru community. I need to put these stripes on my head. I need to put this dot. I need to wear this type of clothing. I need to put this as my background on my Zooms to show how spiritual I am. And then we want to out-spiritual each other. This spiritual competition. We're just fighting with our pride. We're fighting with our pride. We're still in a space of competition. And even in spaces where they say there's a lot of brotherhood there, or there's a lot of sisterhood, and there's men's groups, women's groups, mixed groups, still a lot of competition. How do we get out of that? Break the mold. Break the mold of even needing to be this kind of teacher. I need to be perfect. My wisdom needs to come from this, and I need to say it like this, and this is my target audience, and blah blah blah. Break the mold. Break these archetypes. Any questions? So I'm just thinking if there's anything in stage 4 that I want to talk to. But coming to this point, we've done 10 sessions. We haven't really dived much deeper into, the depths of relational artistry or the depths of being able to break out of the mold. But these are the basic fundamentals of what it takes in my view, to become very skilled at navigating emotions, at navigating emotional weaponization, to truly become emotional martial artist black belts. Understanding all of this language, understanding some of the polarity, understanding what these spaces of neutrality look like. And yeah, some of the content's pretty dry. The exercises definitely are the more fun piece, which we haven't done so much of in these. Oh, actually, no, we did do quite a lot of that. But probably the piece we haven't done quite as much on is like the sparring aspect of where you're practicing sitting with another person and you're playing out each of the archetypes, right? For instance, or the other person is playing out an archetype. And it might be your father, it might be your mother, it might be your lover, it might be your children, it might be your boss, whoever it is. And you practice sparring with them. And it's safe and it's healthy. Just like training in physical martial arts and sparring in that can also be. Right? And so as you begin to practice this, so I've given over the last couple of several sessions just the foundation, setting the foundation for where one can take this. And there's a whole workshop series that is being developed. Some of it has been, that is all called, that I'm calling relational artistry. That this information, this emotional martial arts type information, forms the backbone of. There's a whole nother series called Becoming Your Own Leader that's also being created, to which this information is the backbone of. And really, these series and workshops are all about being able to return back to our divine magnificence, to break free of all the molds that have ever been created on us, and to break free into a space of what I call unconditional presence. No more conditions. We return back to the system the healthy system that we were all gifted, that's inbuilt into our bodies, that is this natural place of feeling, full spectrum feeling, that is able to keep us safe and others safe, and to protect us and to keep other people protected. And it's a system that ensures that we follow our bliss, our passions, and it comes from this spark inside of us, this fire. And it comes really as a fire from sort of like the base, our base, all the way through. And it's like this sensual, sexual type energy that also powers creativity, that is, when fully opened, i.e. there are no molds, matrix molds of conformity that are trapping this fire, we become divinely magnificent. Any questions?
Yes, Chris. So, how are you going to take somebody that comes to you and help them to become magnificent? Is it on Zoom or is it in person?
I guess it would depend on what the situation is around the world. I think the I would like for a whole series of courses to be online on a platform like Udemy, through video and a whole bunch of exercises, like a whole bunch of homework, that people can engage with very cheaply, very affordably, and many people can engage with very affordably. And it's not subjected to, let's say, the vulnerabilities right now of needing something to be in person or not, right? And it can be done in the safety of your own home by yourself without anyone looking. So I'd say that there's a whole series of online courses that I'd like to be out there, that people can engage with en masse. And really, the I guess the structure of it, which has been defined, is in the relational artistry section. The first part is called Unleashing Your Inner Lion. And it's all about being able to tap back into this fiery presence that some may say has traits of anger that run through it. But it's a lot more than just anger. It has sensuality, has sexuality, it has passion, it has mojo, it has creativity, and it allows all of that to flow. Right? That's unleashing the inner lion. The second parts to relational artistry is all about vulnerability. Being able to get deeply vulnerable with ourselves and with other people, aka taking down our walls, bringing down the walls to our heart, taking away the conditions to ourselves being able to express ourselves with compassion and receive other people with compassion. The third part of relational artistry is all about being able to create a safe space. What do I mean by that? It's a sanctuary of interaction with another person or with yourself that is free of weaponized emotions. So when you're revealing a shadowy part of yourself, such as an addiction to porn, an addiction to drugs, addiction to bullying, addiction to whatever it may be, that we want to change about ourselves, or we want to change about our interaction in a relationship with another person, that the other person is able to hold a container there that doesn't shame us, that isn't scared of us, that doesn't want to break up with you and isolate us the moment that information is shared. And that vulnerability allows for this truly raw authenticness and honesty to come out. Because right now in the world, we talk about authenticity and we want to be authentic, but we're only willing to receive authenticity up to a certain level. We're only able to receive honesty up to a certain level. The moment that honesty gets too much, we shut out ourselves from it. That's the third part. The fourth part is being able to dive deeper into relationships. What does a deeper relationship actually look like? What does it mean? Right. Well, a lot of relationships are very, very superficial, very, very agreements-based and very transactional. Even sex itself can feel like a transaction, like a mechanical bull. Where's the intimacy in that? How do we bring intimacy into that if we don't have it? And if we have it, how do we bring a deeper intimacy into it? Where's the juiciness in this? And so that's a whole series on relational artistry. And the whole next series is on is a series I called Becoming Your Own Leader. And what this series is about is the first part of it. So leadership right now, and inner leadership, is more about following the sheeples the sheep of the mold? What kind of leader am I supposed to be? How am I supposed to be leading myself or leading other people based on the opinions and judgment and condemnation of other people? Right? That's right now best practice leadership. My approach is destroy all of those molds, break free of the molds. All these personas, all these needs to conform ourselves, contort ourselves into a mold of leadership that we've been given by society, by culture, by school, by our parents, by our families. Right. So, and then the first part to that is all about breaking free of the molds. The second part to it is a section that I call 21st century Zen, navigating conflict, and looking at Zen and Taoism in a very non-religious way. It's more about embodying the whole. What do I mean by that? It's about finding a place of acceptance between all the extremes and contrast of light to dark, yin to yang, all the good to the bad. Navigating and being able to accept that entire full spectrum of contrast between light and dark then enables us to walk the middle way. Right. So, what do I mean by that? I mean being able to walk in a space of sacred neutrality, and this path where we're accepting all experiences as they come, and we're able to embrace all experiences as we come. And it's about identifying polarity in our language, the contrast in our language of good and bad and all this other stuff, and being able to redefine them. And the other side of the third part of this is sort of like really honing in on the understanding of the whole. What do I mean by that? I mean that it is about being able to drop our need for searching for the future and searching for the past, an attachment to the future and an attachment to the past. It's about living in the present moment, in the now. And what do I mean? A lot of people talk about living in the present moment and living in the now. It's because our society is very, very outcome driven. Like, you think about school. You go through school and you just need that piece of paper at the end. You do university or college and you need that piece of paper at the end, right? You forget about everything in between because you just want that piece of paper. So you're outcome driven. And you forget, you kind of begin to lose track of the passions of why you're even there. And when you're driven on an outcome, which is, I need to pass this, or I need to get this kind of grade, we become anxious because we're thinking about the future. And it kind of compresses all of these emotions into this one moment of now. Or we're driven to at being attached to a past moment, right? Like we did something, we don't like the outcome of how that past moment transitioned for us. And we become attached to that moment and we become depressed. But why? Because sadness of not achieving that outcome becomes compressed into the one moment of now. So we've lost sight of this. And the best way I can describe the return back to, let's say, naturalness without being attached to outcomes is you think about the tree. And the tree, right, it sprouts, it grows big, and the tree doesn't contemplate, for instance, like, am I sprouting and growing myself very big in an area where I might get bulldozed because someone needs to build a house on me. Right? It doesn't think like that. It just is. It's just being. It's like, I'm going to sprout right here. I don't care if someone's going to bulldoze me for a road or someone's going to bulldoze me for a house and chop me down. Right? And if a house is built over me, I don't whine, I don't complain, I'm not poor me. I don't play out all these archetypes. I just simply modify the direction of my branches and I grow outwardly so I can get the sun again. I just shift according to my circumstances without fuss, without hesitation, without frustration. Right? And some people might say, oh, it's because this tree's not as smart as us. Well, I would say the tree feels a lot less anxious than we do. So is it about intelligence or is it about feeling serene and peaceful? Right. And so it is this return to being able to be like more tree-like, right? And it's not to drop the completely the mind and all of his strategy. It's like, no, I retain all of that, but I'm less attached to outcomes. So that's a big part of the teachings in becoming your own leader. Think about leadership now. A lot of people are about driving through goals. I need to reach this milestone. I need to do this. We need to do this as a team. I need to achieve this by then. And it creates stress. It creates stress in the workplace. It creates stress in our families, in our relationships. I need to be married by this date. I need to have children. So you're outcome driven. I need this child and I want a boy or I want a girl or I want blah, 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 blah. I want this child. And when we don't get it or we're not conceiving, we're stressed. Is there something wrong with me? Or I need this kind of partner, and they need to look like this. It's completely, we're all outcome driven. We can't really have true natural leadership when we are outcome driven. And then the last part to this is learning the natural art of discipline. It's not the discipline that has been taught to us by our families, by our society, and by our culture. It's the natural discipline, the natural part of feelings within our bodies. So the return to that inner guidance that's undistorted, unfiltered, raw, fiery, that wants to follow passions, follow creativity, follow its bliss, right? It's inbuilt into all of us, an inbuilt system, natural, self-governing, self-regulating, that we're just unhappy and frustrated when we're not doing what we want to do, like doing our passions. We're told other things by other people, responsibilities, blah, 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 right? Then also, like, there's a self-governing and self-regulating side in discipline that is about protecting ourselves, keeping ourselves safe, and protecting other people and protecting other people safe, which we're spoken about in these sections. So how do we return to that inbuilt system? This is all about learning the art of discipline. So those are the two series that I want to put out there. As online courses, probably as workshops, eventually. And, one-on-one sessions we're already doing. Yeah. Other questions? No. So this wraps up our whole emotional intimacy, emotional martial arts sessions. And so thank you for tuning in. And this really was amazing for me, just to be able to share all of this that I've been contemplating over many years. To have all of you sort of like reflect and participate in listening and the exercises. Um, all right, so thank you for listening, and as I said, very enjoyable to present to you all. And that's it. Ciao, ciao. Enjoy. Love you.